Good Friday, everyone. Chuck Ramsey, the Law Dog, here with you. Jeremy Schroeder, ruler of the airways, for the Weekend Big Show here on July 12th, year of our Lord 2024. And even though it is summertime and sports is on a bit of a downcast and just in preview mode for college football, there are things going on that we can talk about with you, and we would love to do so. Just give us a comment on our Facebook page. Jeremy, double check and make sure we're streaming live, because I don't seem to be able to find it.
All right, let me mute my audio first.
Yeah, mute your audio. We're streaming live because Zoom is telling me we're streaming live.
We are streaming live, sir.
Okay, Facebook is telling me we're not, so always great to have that going on. Hey, man, how you been? We took a week off for the 4th of July, but it's good to be back in the swing of things. What's been going on?
It's good to be back. Nothing, just work and all the fun stuff that goes with that. Not seeming to have time to do anything else.
Well, and we'll get into some things that have gone on this week, and we'll kind of preview next week. If you notice, I got the Texas Tech hat on today, and that is in respect to Joey McGuire and the Texas Tech Red Raiders participating in the first Big 12 Media Days earlier in the week in Vegas. 120 degrees. I think they were melting the reflector lights off of Volkswagen Jettas out there. But it was Big 12 Media Days. I don't have a lot from that other than we'll get into the Gundy stuff because pretty big gaffe by the mulleted one. But really, I've got to go back and watch some of the audio because, Jeremy, I mean, kind of like you, this week has been kind of crazy, for me, just on a personal level, just things that we've done and had going on and things like that. But I tell you what, I owe Connor Carr, our one of our super fans, a story later, and I can do it now or I can do it later, about my Outsiders experience as a kid.
But, do it now. You're from the area.
Okay. So this is the Weekend Big Show. We're streaming live on Facebook, and we're also going to be able to provide this episode on our YouTube channel at Law Dog Sports. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as Twitter, X. And then also you have two options on Facebook. Our primary show website or Facebook page is the Law Dog Sports Podcast. Law Dog Sports is where Jeremy and I just kind of BS and post stuff that might be of interest. So if you want the actual links to everything, the Law Dog Sports Podcast is the Facebook page where that's available. So getting after that, and I don't know, Jeremy, probably I would kind of prefer, folks, we are on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Amazon Podcasts. I found us on Apple. Marty Wandry in Clinton at Clinton Liquor said we weren't available on Apple. I found us on there. So we are available on all of the remaining podcast stream platforms. So anyway, my outsider story comes from, I think it was 1981. I was in 6th grade. We lived in Coweta, Oklahoma, which is about 25 miles from Tulsa. And my grandfather at the time, my mother's dad, lived in North Tulsa, just off of, I think it was Utica, and between Utica and Peoria, off of a street called Independence. And where he lived nearby was a park named Crutchfield Park in Tulsa. And so he lived in a little bitty house. He was getting older, and I think he had fought cancer off once already and was kind of getting better. But he calls my mom, and Coweta was, I mean, it's 25 miles to Tulsa. It's probably 40 miles to his house. And so he calls my mother right after she gets off work, and her name was Sandra. And I answer the phone, and he goes, "Little Charlie?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "This is Papa. Let me talk to your mother." And so I hand her the phone, and I can hear him on this other side say, "Sandra Gale, you've got to get up here." And she goes, "What's the matter, Daddy?" And And he goes, they're trying to film a dirty movie in my house. So she's like, what? He's like, yeah, they came up here with these papers and they offered me money and they want to film a dirty movie in my house. And so we load up, haul ass up to Tulsa, North Tulsa, and we find that they did not want to film inside my grandfather's house. They were filming around the corner from my grandfather's house earlier, but they wanted him to move his vehicle because they were filming a scene from The Outsiders at Crutchfield Park, which was just a block away, because his vehicle at the time did not fit the time frame of the movie. So my mom shows up, and we're in our little 76 Chevy Vega, and it didn't fit the time frame either. They gave my mom $75 to park her car down at the church down the street and out of the picture shot. So we go down to the park to see what's going on because there's a crowd gathered around, and they're filming this movie called The Outsiders. And there's all these participants in the movie that we had no idea who they were. The only one there, I saw Matt Dillon there, and I knew him from seeing him on the front of Tiger Beat at the grocery store. I didn't have a subscription, I promise.
Yeah, sure.
Matt Dillon's around there, like going around on a merry-go-round with some kids. Like he's just kind of chilling out because he wasn't in the scene. So the scene we watched them shoot, and if you've seen The Outsiders, it's the scene where right before the fight scene with the stabbing, where the two boys, Pony Boy and Johnny, are walking. They walk to the park, and the Mustang turns the corner, the fancy Mustang with the Socs in it. And this is all stemming from Conard Carr taking exception with S.E. Hinton earlier this week on X, which is fine, you know. But
that's all he does on X. Just take exception with people.
Yeah. S.E. Hinton apparently is, I didn't know she was still alive, and apparently she's on social media. So Conard takes exception with something. Why can't I get the stream to pull up on my device? So anyway,
Conard is basically just a grouchy old man on X. That's you, Conard.
He really is. I mean, and I hate to see that in a guy so young. I mean,
he does not like the transfer portal.
Oh no, but wants to give me grief about mid-range shooting. So, anyways, yeah, Conard asked for I got my comments up now, and so Conard, hopefully you're enjoying this story. So, anyways, we want you to enjoy something this weekend. So, so we watched them film this scene, and it's gotten dark, and they've got this big fan down the street, kind of right in front of my granddad's house, and they're blowing wet, moisture to make it look rainy. It wasn't rainy at all, and they're blowing they're using big fans to kind of make it look like it's rainy. And so we sat there and watched that Mustang turn that corner, I think 15 to 20 times. And the boys just kept walking and walking and walking. That's why there's child labor laws for acting, is because they have to do things. Francis Ford Coppola was the director that was there doing it. I mean, this was one of his projects after Apocalypse Now, basically. And
Rumblefish.
Yeah. The thing I took from this is I didn't know they had phones when you were a kid. Wow. Thanks.
I just want to know if you got to meet C. Thomas Howell.
I did not. Here's the thing. We didn't know any of them, Jeremy.
Pre-Soul Man fame, C. Thomas Howell.
C. Thomas Howell, Johnny Be Good, No, he was.
You're thinking of Anthony Michael Hall.
C. Thomas Howell was. What was the one where he put on blackface to go to Harvard?
Soul Man. I just said it.
Okay, sorry.
They were chaining pills.
Yeah. So
that had Jan from The Office was in that.
Was she really?
Yeah.
No, she's not Mariska Hargitay. She's
no. Oh God, I can't remember Mariska Hargitay. No, I can't think of what her name is, but she was in.
Okay. So, anyways, hey, I saw Wilhelm from Seinfeld, Mr. Wilhelm from Seinfeld on a MASH episode the other night.
Mr. Wilhelm.
George
Ian Abercrombie. Oh yeah.
George's boss at the Yankees.
Yes.
that joined
Well,
the
he's been in a lot of
culty
stuff.
carpet cleaning. So, anyways, they spend hours upon hours redoing, just going over and keep doing the same scene, little bit of a scene.
Melora Hardin.
Melora Hardin. Okay. Mariska Melora, whatever. So anyways, eventually I had to get back, my mom had to get me back because I had school the next day and she had work. But that was my outsider story. And if you watch the scene, I can point out, and I've posted it on Facebook before. You can see my grandfather's house on the movie way back in the background. Now, there was a time where I was under the misconception that they actually did use his house for a scene shot, but it was not. It was around the corner from his house and across the street from a house where my brother actually rented for a while. But they have the house preserved that they used in the movie. I think it's on Ponyboy Way now or something. But Outsiders is a classic movie. That's the last movie I remember really kind of I'll take that back. No Country for Old Men and The Outsiders are the two movies that I've kind of waited with bated breath for to come out once I heard about it. And we'd heard about The Outsiders, and man, there was a bunch of us that were ready to see that back in, I think it didn't come out until 82 or 83.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and watching that, The Right Stuff,
Yeah.
and which is a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
And
War Games.
Wow. Clash of the Titans on
the Harry
HBO.
Hamlin?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The only one. Burgess Meredith, come on.
Burgess Meredith. It wasn't Laurence Olivier Zeus or something in that?
He was, yes.
Yeah. You got Sir Laurence Olivier. Connor Carr, Charlie Sheen was not in The Outsiders, so check your IMDb, dude.
Yeah. Tom Cruise was in The Outsiders.
Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Leif Garrett was in The Outsiders.
Yes, Leif Garrett. He was a Soch, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's a guy named Darren Daniels, or the guy who played the curly-headed Soch that kind of talked to Ponyboy at the end. Diane Lane,
Ralph Macchio,
the Karate Kid,
Swayze,
and I think that's about it. Gaylord Sartain, and Tulsa folks know Gaylord Sartain.
Tom Waits.
Yeah, Tom Waits answered the door at the bar when they were looking for Dallas.
Fun fact: he was the inspiration for Heath Ledger's Joker.
See, I don't care.
He did an interview on Australian TV where he was just wasted, and that was his whole shtick.
Man, Brady Benton is a friend of mine who is the afternoon guy at 1017 The Zoo in Elk City, and he's a great dude. We talk music, we talk movies. He's a big horror film buff, this and that. He's on Twitter, also Bent on the radio. He loves Tom Waits. I just can't. Do you remember in the 90s when he had like an HBO special that they played like 20 times a week?
It was not really. I wasn't a big Tom Waits guy.
No, nobody is.
They said this here says Flea from the Chili Peppers was in The Outsiders.
Flea?
Yeah, it says he was Soch number 3.
Okay. Well, they did use a lot of extras. I'll have to go back.
And Cam Neely?
Cam Neely. Who was he?
Seabass.
Oh, really?
Dumb and Dumber. Yeah, the hockey player.
Well, that's the thing. The primary cast was unknown at the time, other than Matt Dillon. So you can imagine the extras were pretty unknown as well.
Right.
But apparently, I found out later in life, and I would have been embarrassed to admit this as a kid, but apparently one of the producers invited my mom, who was an attractive woman, to go to an after party or something, and she said, "No, I'm not doing that." So, anyways, yeah, I could be Coppola's stepson right now.
You could. Yeah, you and Nick Cage could be tight. Imagine what that would be like.
Why am I
Nick Cage all the time?
Thanks a lot, Mom. Rest in peace. Oh gosh. All right, so that's my outside story. So hopefully Connor Carr will.
He said that took a turn.
Yes. That's called life, buddy. No, my mom, she was a very saintly woman, and she didn't play that, but they didn't keep them from shooting their shot. And but anyways, my grandfather did rest down. he used to call HBO that box. He go, they got that box, and it's nothing but dirty movies. And it's like, well, maybe he saw The Hitchhiker. I don't know.
Oh, the Hitchhiker!
The Hitcher.
Wow,
The Hitcher.
wow, the Hitcher.
Anyway, hey,
That
welcome.
was also C. Thomas Howell,
The Hitchhiker or the Hitcher?
the Hitchhiker. Yeah, the one with
Okay, yeah,
Rutger
it
Hauer.
was C. Thomas Howell. Did he do a horror movie?
I'm sure he did.
I
I
think
don't know.
my friend Robbie at the OCPD worked a comic book show at the Civic Center here recently and said he actually got C. Thomas Howell to record a video for his son who's deployed.
He was in Red Dawn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was ruthless in Red Dawn. He's the one that, and I think it's Darren Daniels was also in Red Dawn. He was the one that gave him up to the Russians. They shot him.
Was
Anyway,
he in the? Was he,
he was in The Outsiders. He was like Soch number. Or he had a name.
Wasn't Darren Dalton?
Yeah, Darren Dalton. I said
Okay.
Darren Daniels, Darren Dalton, but I didn't think it was the same name as the baseball player. How about Darren Dalton, man? Those 93 Phillies were outstanding.
Dutch. Dutch Dalton. The 93 Phillies, man, that was the greatest assembly of just misfits and degenerates ever to hit a baseball. Well, probably since the Ty Cobb Tigers.
Yeah, Mitch Williams was the closer on that team. Is he?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Was he the one that gave up the game winner to
Joe Carter?
Carter. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that 93 Phillies team. I did. I wanted them to win it. Thanks, Cleet Jones and Kenny McGuire, for checking in. We've got Connor Carr and Dan Narva as well, and we probably could start talking some sports.
We could.
All right. So, where do you want to get started? I know before we got on the air, you were grinding about Paul Skeens and his manager taking him out with a no-no, but we've got plenty. But I saw it. I didn't delve deep into it, but apparently this has gone on pretty regularly with him.
He's had 3 starts, 6+ innings, no hits, 10+ strikeouts, and hasn't made it into the 8th. He threw 99 pitches yesterday. I mean, the guy is a horse.
Mm-hmm.
He can't go 120. You can't throw him out there for another inning just to see what happens. I mean,
and he's so young.
I know they're worried about a Strasburg situation. These guys snap that slider off so hard that it's tearing their elbows apart. But 99 pitches, 99.
Yeah, that's the new limit.
I mean, Nolan Ryan threw 234 pitches and pitched the second end of a double. Just kidding. No, but he pitched on 3 days rest after that.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean,
there's Dan.
Yeah. I actually invited Dan to join us, and don't know if he is available. Dan, text me your email if you want to jump in and join the fun. Dan's earned it. I'll say that. So yeah, Paul Skeens, I mean, this guy comes into the league and he's just continuing his greatness.
Oh, he's amazing. The guy's an absolute horse, but I get it. It's a long-term investment with these guys. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to do much this year, but my goodness.
Yeah.
How often do you have a chance to throw a no-no?
In typical millennial Gen Z fashion, a lot of folks I've seen are already giving him credit for the no-hitter and saying, that he got it younger than Nolan did. And so
he threw 6 innings. Shut up. Yes, Connor, I remember Kerry Wood.
Connor Carr, does the Cubs fan remember Kerry Wood? Kerry.
That was also the game he tore his UCL. He threw like 140 pitches, Connor.
Yeah. And 120 used to be the bar, wouldn't you say? Thanks.
Yes. I mean, we had 99 pitches from a guy. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
We used to watch guys just throw 100 pitches on the regular.
I think 99's right there around the high school cutoff.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you'd see guys back in 70s, 80s, Bob Gibson, Nolan Ryan, just guys going out, even guys that were super efficient would throw 120 pitches.
Think about the Danny Darwins and the Doug Drabecks. back in the day.
Yeah, I don't know did we evolve to where our UCL is made of paper mache now? Is that what's happened?
I mean, here's the thing: you think about the controlled pitching that these new guys, these younger guys do. These guys that are just getting into the league, they're being controlled all the way up, from pee wee ball through,
Yeah.
from kid pitch on the way, and it's all a program. It's all set in stone now. And so think about this: our generation had free play.
Uh-huh.
You had a place in the neighborhood where kids gathered, and there weren't any umpires, there weren't any dads, and you played baseball and
Yep.
took one in the jaw. You went home and got it wired shut. But I think that's the issue we have with most of our sports nowadays is it's just too structured in the United States, and baseball is one of those deals. And so I bet you're exactly right. There's someone who has looked at it and said, at this point in his career, if he goes, consistently over X amount of pitches, you won't have him much longer.
And it's just wild to me. I keep bringing up Nolan Ryan because he was the perfect example. I mean, he would go out, throw 200, 180 pitches, and get on the bike, lift weights. Yeah, because he was all legs.
Yeah.
All legs. Most of these guys are having these arm problems, or probably there's some sort of mechanical flaw or whatever. 94 mile per hour sliders. Randy Johnson threw 97 mile per hour sliders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Randy Johnson never had arm issues. Nolan did tear his UCL when he was 47 years old, and it was the last pitch he ever threw.
Yeah.
So I get it, but the wear and tear from that pitch, I guess, is what's killing these kids now. But I don't understand how it's become so much more prevalent where we've had guys that are on their second, maybe third Tommy John.
Well, and I know for a fact that, that the sports media world probably, well, they can probably take it either way, because if he gets pulled, then you can, run all the stories about him getting pulled with a no hitter. And if they do let him get through and he gets it, that's a big story. So I guess they win-win.
David Wells threw a perfect game, hung over out of his mind.
Who did?
David Wells.
Boomer? Yeah. When was he not hung over out of his mind?
Well, I know, right?
I was looking up Greg.
He was a bit of a thumber, though.
I was looking up Greg Maddux, trying to see how many innings he averaged per year.
Maddux threw a complete game, two-hitter, and threw 87 pitches. He's really not the comparison that anybody needs to make. All he threw was cutters and sinkers, and
sure.
There was an inning where he got 3 straight outs. He didn't break 84 miles per hour.
All right, so power pitcher. How about Pedro?
Pedro, yeah, I mean, he had injuries later in his career, but a lot of it was leg issues because he was a leg guy. There was one game when he was he with the Indians at the time when he was a little dinged. It was his back, and he came in relief, and he couldn't really throw much, but he came up with this little cutter, and I think retired like 20 straight batters with it. It was just, and it was a playoff game. It was just crazy. And yes, Randy was built different.
Yes, for sure. I don't know. I to me, I just look at it and I say it's just another part of baseball that's become unwatchable.
It's true. It's wild just to see the devolution of the sport to where guys are so fragile now. And it's probably not their fault. I don't know. There's not as much specialization these days. Guys are playing multiple sports, but they always did.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny you say that, because the specialization has become such, so prevalent with youth sports. And I remember in the 90s, a lady I worked at I used to work the part-time bank jobs for extra money. And a lady that worked there, she had a son. She had 2 sons. One was 9, one was 8. And they basically got told by their baseball coach that if you don't play fall ball, don't expect to play spring ball. And these are 9-year-olds. And that was
that is insane.
Yeah. And it's like, well, heaven forbid the kids want to play football. Heaven, because her kids loved baseball. I didn't know them, but she said they did. And it's like, the thing with kids is, they're going to get bored playing baseball year round.
Well,
I mean,
but you got to try everything.
yeah,
You may try football for a season or two and discover, well, it's just not for me.
yeah,
But these coaches that are throwing kids like that, not 8, 9 years old, 10, 11, 12, even up into high school, that are discouraging you from playing other sports is just bonkers to me.
yeah.
Even up into college.
But I mean, and therein lies the thing I'm talking about too, is that these kids are added at such a young age and specializing and just being groomed to be and hey, Paul Skeens, maybe he's a rock, maybe he's going to have we don't know, and maybe there's doctors that have looked at it and said he's already got some. I don't know.
Yeah, it's their investment. They can do what they want, but as a fan, you just don't want to see it. And Connor, you're absolutely right. We're developing yet another generation that will strike out more than hitting a hot grounder or a line out.
Yeah, and I brought up Maddox. That guy, he didn't just overwhelm people with Ks. He got people to hit bad balls.
And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Connor Carr has commented, Little League is ridiculous. My nephew is hitting in a T-ball home run derby this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That's a terrible idea.
You're
base. I'm looking at it right now.
I don't
know. But that's, we've got guys. I remember in the 90s, early 2000s, a guy struck out 188 times. It's like, what is going on with this game? Well, that's average now. 188. Well, he didn't hit into double plays. Well, give yourself a chance. Hit the dang ball. It's wild.
Yeah, it's
amazing
on the field where there are not infielders or outfielders, and you can advance a base.
It's amazing that guys like Barry Bonds, I know we hate him, he's a scumbag, whatever, hit 700 and how many? 62 home runs.
Yeah.
Didn't strike out much, did he?
No, not a lot.
No, he put the daggum ball in play. See, you can still put the ball in play and hit a lot of home runs. Hank Aaron didn't strike out a lot. Ruth didn't strike out a lot. Willie Mays didn't strike out a lot.
But and you know what else is, to me, right now, and I know there's a rather rotund sports talk host in the metro area where you live that is constantly talking about the ball being juiced. And I watched a bit.
That's right, Connor.
I watched a bit of the Yankees Red Sox. Yeah, that's exactly right. Can't hit 762 home runs if you're striking out 200 times a year. True. But I'm telling you, Jeremy, some of these home runs that we see on the highlights, it looks like check swings. I mean, it's not like they're getting full power. And so when you're throwing that cutter that used to be 94 at a 102, I mean, doesn't that kind of lend itself to the exit?
Yeah. Maybe that you guys got guys that are throwing so hard now that we've unlocked that part of the mechanics to hit triple digits, but the human body hasn't caught up with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I'll just tell you this, a friend of mine who utilized substances in the 70s to make himself, predominantly bigger. He freely admits back in the days when it wasn't illegal. And he sustained a triceps tendon injury. And he explained to me that he's at this function. He meets this guy who's a doctor, an orthopedic. He's just kind of, bantering, talking with this guy, mentions that, he's got this severe pain in his tricep. And the guy just tells him, well, the first question the doctor asked him, did you use steroids in your life? He goes, yeah, I used to. He goes, well, you've torn your triceps tendon. And when you hear about a biceps tendon, it's totally different structure. The triceps tendon is under normal circumstances, is nearly impossible to tear unless you're pushing way more weight than your human body is supposed to push.
Sure.
Tricep. So he had a terrible operation. I mean, it was a successful operation, but the recovery was just a nightmare. I mean, he was in for it. But you're exactly right. The human body apparently in sports is doing things now that maybe it just hasn't caught up with. We'll see. But so, anyways, baseball is kind of becoming unwatchable, not just because of the play on the field, but kind of because of the folks that are kind of being crammed down our throats for announcing teams and stuff. And I saw where Joe Buck's coming back to the Cardinals later
Oh,
this
Lord.
month. Yeah. And then your Cubbies introduced the first all-female broadcast team. And I put it on Facebook, and I said, I really don't have a problem with this, because if you're an announcer, you're calling the game. I don't have a problem with either. They were getting blasted on social media. But my thing is I don't have a problem if you enunciate your words and you don't say cotton, titan, or Peyton. Pronounce your T's. That's all I ask. It's not Peyton. It's not, Tennessee Titans. And Joy Taylor's the world's worst at that. Aaron Torres on Fox is terrible. And I think
Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, he is terrible about that. I forgot about
And
it.
I really like Orlovsky, but yeah, he's a soft T guy.
Oh, and it's I saw I shared a clip on my personal page, and I don't know, I got to research what movie it was, but the guy that played Peter on Office Space, is it Ron Livingston?
Yeah, Ron Livingston.
He's in a coffee shop and he just plays
Yes.
off on this girl. I can't think of what movie that is.
I don't know.
She's like, hot
But
coffee, it's
oh
like,
my
dude,
God.
you speak like that to try to, rich people and people who want to make people think they don't give a shit are the only ones that talk like that. He just twists off on her, and I just thought, man, you were so right. I mean, because there's a whole tone that has just become generational, and it's just
Sure.
so. Anyways, but baseball, I mean, here's the thing: the mothership is probably the prime offender, but they're not only giving us their crap product now, but their talking heads are bringing back good memories of when they were good.
I
Carl
know.
Ratch has been on social media this week talking about, sure miss baseball tonight. Yeah, we all do.
We all do.
Yeah. You're not alone there, Carl. And
I
so,
like to tune in to watch it, get the web gems, and go to bed happy.
and
But no, what do I go
Network
get
has
on there and
mailed
watch
in.
somebody argue now?
Yeah, yeah. And MLB Network has mailed it in, and it's just become a blasphemy of baseball coverage. But hey, there is the Lone Star Series this weekend, as Houston and Texas will take on each other and see if anyone can get some advantage to catch up to Seattle. But
Well, the MLB is just, I mean, terrible at marketing their product. We're gonna see Mike Trout inducted into the Hall of Fame, and people are like, I've never seen him play.
Yeah,
Well,
and they're just doubling down on the AL East. I mean, it's just, I don't know if they like getting it done early or what, but I mean,
well, where's ESPN located?
Yeah, I get it.
Where is it located?
Cubs and Cards play this weekend.
Yeah, man, the Cubs are terrible. I'm done.
Lone Star Series. I was thrilled to see. I was thrilled to see the Yankees lose last Sunday and lose the series to the Red Sox, and they are just spiraling after coming out so strong. And
That's a shame.
I have a friend who's a big Red Sox fan, and I said, how fitting that Judge strikes out to end the game on Sunday night, and they drop one to Boston. But I don't know. Well,
man, the Orioles are in first place. Who would have thought that?
Yeah,
man.
Exactly. And nobody.
Wonder what Chris Davis is hitting these days.
Chris with a K.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the Orioles did lose to your Cubs last night, 8-0, and so
they haven't scored a run in that series, pal.
Big series coming up with the Orioles and the Yankees, and then Boston is hosting KC. Hey, with the All-Star game coming up next week, I believe, isn't it Monday?
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday? Monday night will be the home run derby.
Yeah. So with that being said, after that, we need to plan on bringing in John Moore from the
Yes.
Baseball Podcast and get some Rangers talk going and some
Just
trade
some
lines.
commiseration.
Yeah. I can remember having him on our old show on KSEY, Jeremy, and it was the Joe. I think we had him on right after the Joey Gallo trade.
Yeah, and it's always better to have a whole show dedicated to baseball when it's more fun to talk about when your team doesn't absolutely stink on ice.
Yeah.
And the Cubs stink. The Rangers aren't very good. Where
No.
are the Astros?
Astros are
they're in second place,
and they are above 500. So and All-Star game. I think Dan, you'll need to turn down your audio on your stream on your Facebook.
All right. Oh yeah. You know what? I just muted that.
That's good. I'll mute you. How about that? So we'll bring you back here in just a minute. We'll be having our friend and superfan Dan Narva join us. That's the benefit you get of being a super fan of this podcast, Jeremy, is you get to participate. And
sure,
we could we could make that a little bit of a carrot to dangle in front of folks and see if they'd be willing to jump in. Let's check back with Dan and see if we have him available. Let's see here. There's Dan. Dano, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, we don't.
We hear you. We don't see you.
No video.
Oh, man.
So
okay.
Dan, you're a guy that we interact with frequently here on the podcast, and generally you're my baseball reference for all things AL Central. How you doing, Dano? There you are.
Hey, there you go. We're on.
There's Dan.
You're up in Michigan.
Well, turn on the camera.
There you go. You're up in Michigan, and man, I tell you what, I don't know that there's a Twitter page involving anything AL Central that you don't interact with. You
Is that right? Yeah.
You really can give them the content in the comments, man. And I just think to myself, he's part of our show in a way.
Well, there's a dude. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, there's a dude from the Twins that I've really kind of glommed onto, and I don't do anything on my own, obviously. I mean, I don't really consider myself a center of excellence on anything, really. So
you really undersell yourself. I mean, I have to.
No,
I go digging. But I read one of your comments on some of those, especially with the Twins. Like,
yeah,
who outside the state of Minnesota keeps up with anything regarding the Twins?
Wouldn't you know it? Well, I did live there for 14 years. So, I mean, I had to come up with an excuse to like somebody other than the Tigers.
Sure.
Because it looked like the Tigers were kind of a sinking ship for a while. And so, well, I mean, when you live in Michigan, if you're not a Wolverine, which I'm not, you learn to come up with consolation teams,
sure,
because it's just
maybe you just need to drop a trash can off over at Tiger Stadium for AJ Hinch and the boys to use.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Right.
Got fired. Well, and here's the thing. The thing I get from up there and you guys' interactions with different folks that follow the AL Central pretty heavy is it seems to be a consensus everybody hates Cleveland.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I know a lot of the Tiger fans are kind of that way. I would say I really don't. I don't really know if I hate anybody in the Central this year. But Cleveland, they were hot, and they've got a lot of decent hitters. They got the Nailers. They got what's his name there, the third baseman. God, brain fart here.
It's
Ramirez.
Jose Ramirez, isn't it?
Ramirez, yeah. Yep. So yeah, they've been beaten up on some teams this year, but
well, I'm going to say that's a pretty low bar in the AL Central.
It is in a way. I think they're a little better this year because and this is one thing I argued with somebody else. It was kind of crapping on the Central. It was basically saying jam. Anyway, I was basically saying we're playing a balanced schedule now, right? So yes, you do pay. You're going to play, what is it, maybe 56 games inside your division, and so you're going to play about 100 or more outside. So I kind of don't like it. I wish they would kind of get away from all these National League games and somehow make it a little more skewed toward their own leagues a little bit more than they.
There you go. You heard it here. Dan wants to get rid of interleague play.
Well, interleague play for Dan Narva. Hey, I saw you commented about Harmon Killebrew on a post. I think it was yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Before. Did you ever have a chance to meet Harmon Killebrew?
I never got a chance to meet him. No. About the only significant Twins figure. No, there's two of them actually. About the only one that I actually met their former owner. Calvin Griffith, who was hated and loathed by most Twins fans and probably earned it. But he was kind of getting toward the end of his years, and he'd sit up in his owner's box, and he kind of like leaned back in his chair, and his necktie would almost go horizontal to the ground because it stood out a ways. But anyway, he was walking out with his suit on one day, and you go through the windstorm, leaving the Metrodome, and then you get out on the concourse, or basically the sidewalks and stuff outside. And I saw him from a distance. He goes, "How are you, young man?" Anyway, so I shook his hand.
I had a Harmon Killebrew.
No Harmon, yeah.
And I got to meet him back when I was with the Oklahoma City Police Department. Jeremy will remember this, the old 89er All Sports Stadium out there at the Fairgrounds in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
What a beautiful sanctuary of baseball that was.
You romantic about baseball. And, just it was the way baseball was supposed to be played. And so I ended up doing a security detail for Harmon Killebrew. Hey, Dan, could you pour that away from the mic?
I got to learn your rules, man.
Yeah, beverages are fine, but
yeah.
As long as nothing flushes, we're good.
Exactly.
So anyways, took care of that earlier.
Long story short, I end up doing security for Harmon Killebrew and Warren Spahn for an autograph session. Killebrew could not have been more of a gentleman. Just a true, easygoing. He's like what you would epitomize an old grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Spawn, not so much.
Oh, is that right?
Spawn, not at all. And he was drunk, and he was popping off at the mouth, and he was really rude to people wanting autographs. They were being kind of chaperoned by this guy with the Major League Baseball Players Alumni Association, the MLBPAA, and he was a real winner. And so it made me, I never collected another souvenir or anything regarding baseball after working that detail. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was like, this is a racket. And so not only the fans that showed up, but then the organization that was kind of putting the deal on, they would only let them sign pictures or baseballs. They couldn't bring a bat and they couldn't bring a jersey. And that was so that the Alumni Association could limit the number of Killebrew and Spawn jerseys out there and stuff, and keep, I think Dan might have froze. But anyway, so Spawn, sometime on a call where we're all three having a barley pop or something. I'm not going to put it out on the podcast, but he said some things that had I been somebody who wasn't there to protect him, I might have decked him. So anyway.
Oh my.
Let's see. Kenny McGuire, left field hill that kids broke bones chasing after foul balls. Yes, they did.
Yes.
That was
oh my gosh.
Good times. Thanks,
Kenny. The horizontal net from behind home plate all the way up to the top of the grandstand. Oh my goodness!
And not only the 89ers, Jeremy, but Big 12 conference tournament was there year after year.
I know.
Big 8.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Big 8. Yeah, Oklahoma State won it every year.
Yeah, and it was just classic setting for college baseball back then. I mean,
sure.
And what's sad is now Think about the Big 12 tournament down at the ballpark. Not the ballpark in Arlington.
What is it?
Globe Life Field.
Globe Life, yes.
Think about the vacant. I mean, it was
2.0.
like Oakland Stadium there when they were hitting home runs out there. I mean, it's just
It was nice when they still had it down at the ballpark downtown, the Bricktown Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, well, listen. I watched the ESPYs last night to change gears real quick, and I'm gonna start off positive. Or wait, should I start off negative and then go positive? Is it
you can do what
and build them up, or what's recommended?
Let's go negative first,
Okay,
because there's lots of negatives that came from that.
Yeah, man, I'm coming to terms with it. I'm older. I'm going to freely admit, sports is sports broadcasting, sports entertainment, whatever. It's been predominantly male situation. You could even say white male situation where it's predominant hosts and characters and things like that. It's coming around. I get it. But I mean, I grew up listening to Public Enemy and Run DMC and LL Cool J. I'm not totally oblivious to all things urban hip hop, R&B, any of that. They had Flau'jae on there rapping last night. The girl that got pushed down in the South Carolina LSU game, she came up, and I think it was so that pushed her down from behind, or when it got scrappy, this gal was the one that took a dive, and her brother tried to jump out on the floor. She was up there freestyling or whatever it is, and that's just I'm out. I don't know. I mean, it's not, and not just that.
That's what did it for you?
No,
that's what it was.
Is cumulative effect, but and
I mean,
I started out really kind of trying to be positive about Serena because she was doing some things. I mean, you can't take anything away from Serena Williams as an athlete. There's an argument that she's one of the greatest athletes of all time. There's, she's an icon in sports, and for her culture and society and things like that. I get it. And she was getting out of her box. I get it. But it was so poorly executed that I couldn't stay engaged. And really, I just kept watching and I wanted to see the Steve Gleason presentation for the Arthur Ashe Award. And then also I wanted to see when OU softball got hosed for the Team of the Year award, which you didn't get to see because the producers cut it away and didn't even show the award being presented.
You didn't have a problem with Prince Harry winning the Pat Tillman Award for Service?
Here's the thing. My wife and I were talking about that. She kind of filled me in on a lot of the scuttlebutt that was going on with that. When I saw the disabled veterans on stage going along with it, I didn't. I really didn't.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Whatever the situation was, that organization has obviously meant a lot to a lot of people. I tweeted last night, it's not my place to give Prince Harry shit about receiving that award. But here's your place, so go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was unaware that the Duke of Sussex was a sports figure.
He's involved in sports.
Oh,
he created, okay. He helped, I'm sure the royal family organization, but they helped create the Invictus Games. Dan, you probably...
You mean the lizard people in London?
Wow. Hey, thank you for saying that, because now anything I say can just be construed as we were off. So,
I figured maybe you'd be in polo or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, but we're talking about giving the guy an award, which I thought his speech was well executed. And I saw some of the commentary, people giving him grief about making it about him, or she wrote it for him. No, I thought it was a nice speech. They are involving disabled veterans in sporting activities. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't, if he's the one that kind of brought it to fruition, I don't have a problem with him. Now, Tillman's family seems to have a problem with it. Yeah. The sister was on there pretty grumpy all night, and I heard that Pat Tillman's mom had issue with it, but he gave Pat Tillman's mom a shout out in the speech. So I don't know. Like I said, it's not my place to give him shit about it.
I just thought it was weird.
It's out of the box.
Yeah. And that the South Carolina women's basketball team won the best team, and yeah, I mean
the 4-peat doesn't get a consideration.
The OU women's softball team, I don't think has ever won it, and they've won 4 straight national titles.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Dan, you're closer to Canada. Is there
Canada?
Is there a lot better sentiment towards Prince Harry from up north?
I'm not that close.
How are the French Canadians feeling about it?
Yeah.
Anything with Prince, King, or Queen, I generally don't pay too much attention to it.
We want
you're not
privacy.
an Anglophile.
We want Oh Lord! But I mean, and then did you notice that it was just seemingly devoid of the typical big names in sports that it normally was?
I did.
I saw.
I know that
Miles Garrett. That's the 2 that I knew.
Patrick Mahomes won how many ESPYs and
Wasn't there.
was at Wimbledon? Yeah.
Kelsey. They couldn't get Kelsey to show. I mean, they should have called it the Westbys.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's fine if you do. If that's the case, call it the Westbys. It was, I mean, just a handful of men were involved with the show, and then your boy kicker Harrison Butker gets it broken on him by the trio of Venus and Serena Williams, and
they're so brave. So brave. So brave. Yeah. Stunning and brave.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even get Jason Kelsey over there?
Huh?
They couldn't even get Jason Kelsey to show up?
They had him on a video.
I'm sure if they would have just gave him a suite with a keg, he would have been there.
They did a segment with Venus Williams talking to other siblings who were less successful than their. They had the Eli Manning, and they had Jason Kelsey, and I think one other, but I don't know. It's just I watched it, and I knew. And
you're calling this guy less successful than his brother.
He's got a pop icon.
He's got a pop.
My thing is I didn't care
about. Is there a Pez dispenser for him yet?
Yeah.
The Dick Vitale Award and the Arthur Ashe Award, that's what I watched for. The Pat Tillman Award, yes, it was odd that he received it. I just came away not feeling terrible about it. That was the thing.
Yeah, they were probably just going to go for the biggest splash with giving that award, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How much have you all ever been involved with charitable fundraisers?
Very little.
Okay.
Cub Scouts.
Okay. When I was with
Scouts,
with the police athletic
popcorn.
There you go. Yeah, selling M&Ms and those world's finest chocolate bars. When I was in Police Athletic League, we had an event every year to raise money for the Police Athletic League in Oklahoma City called Fight Night, Celebrity Fight Night. And it started out, the first year they did it, they brought in this lady who was this professional fundraiser, and they booked Sugar Ray Leonard to come and interact and be a guest at this deal. They had to pay him an enormous amount of money, which means that you're on the hook to raise an enormous amount of money. And they did, and some money goes to charity, but at the end, seemingly more goes to the planner and to the celebrity. Next year it was Buster Douglas, and it's kind of, and you have these people that want to spend the money to donate and buy these souvenirs and autograph and silent auction. You got to feed them, get them drunk, and give them cigars, stand around and smoke, which I used to get in trouble because I pointed out that they're helping raise money for an organization that was supposed to be against all three of those things. So that got me kicked out of several meetings. But the thing about it is yes, you have to throw a name out there. You have to get a stir to get people to watch, and people watched. And like I said, I started out being pretty pleased with Serena Williams. Like I said, she was more of an entertainer, but then after a while, just the lack of execution was just so bad. And then they did an in memoriam segment where they just kind of showed pictures of all the famous athletes that died this last year from a distance. No names, no lifespan, 1920 to 2024, whatever. And I was just like, well, what point was that? All it was some guy who's nominated for an Academy Award reading off a script, which he did the best of all night, everybody all night. But anyways,
Did better than our president did last night.
Oh yeah, that was Vice President Trump. So anyways, that's all I'll say about the ESPYs. But I mean, it's just Dan, parting shot on that if you want.
ESPYs, I got to say, I didn't even know they were on last night.
Okay, cut out a little bit there, bub. I don't know. I may be freezing, or you guys may be a little bit, but we
Sorry about that.
A little bit issue. So ESPYs, didn't it used to be on like the night after the All-Star game?
It was.
Like
it was
because
the All-Star
game?
Right, because that's a dead week.
Yeah.
So they'd pull a lot more viewers then because there was nothing else going on.
Exactly. And what happened to that? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe Andy Reid wasn't available next week.
Yeah. Hey, what is it? Super 70 Sports says Super Sky Point when somebody passes away.
Yes.
Two deaths. Shelley Duvall announced yesterday, the co-star of The Shining back in the 70s, and then also played Olive Oil.
Oh yeah.
I really didn't know any other of her big roles that they mentioned.
No.
Never saw Nashville.
I mean, The Shining was.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, pretty iconic. So.
Popeye.
Yeah.
And so also Monte Kiffin, the coordinator,
the creator of the Tampa2.
Tampa2, and Lane Kiffin's father. And it's so interesting that Monte, and I know it's football and all facets of the game, but it's so interesting that Lane is such an offensive guru while Dad was a defensive guru. And I know they can play each other, but usually son follows dad. I mean, look at the Ryan brothers, the
Phillips.
Yeah, the Phillipses. So I don't know. It's sad. I didn't know he was sick. Obviously, kind of out of sight, out of mind sometimes, but that guy had some hellacious defenses at Tampa Bay at times.
Yeah, personnel helps a lot, but he really got them where they needed to be successful.
Oh yeah, John Lynch. I mean, tell me that guy doesn't know his career to Monte Kiffin.
Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp.
Yeah.
Some dudes.
Did he have some tie-ins with Nebraska? Because I think Nebraska.
You're our Big Ten guy. How do you not know that?
Well, they weren't the Big Ten when he would have been there.
Exactly.
Let me see.
Let's see. Yeah.
He was, he was the D coordinator at Nebraska, 69 to 76. Then he was with Arkansas, 77, 78 as D coordinator.
That would have been Lou Holtz's team.
Yeah. Before Connor Carr's time, I'm sure he'll have a comment though.
Head coach at North Carolina State. So had one stint in college as a head coach. Did he wrap up his career at Florida Atlantic?
He was a player personnel analyst at Ole Miss for 3 years.
But actual coordinator.
Defensive assistant at Florida Atlantic from 17 to 19. Yes.
On Cowboys staff from 2013 to 2014. So, man, a lot of good defenses there. Apparently, though, from 69 to 76, he wasn't really all that great at stopping the wishbone. Boom!
That's right. And I did not remember his stint with the Cowboys. You'd think they would have been a little better at that. But that was those were the dark ages for the Cowboys.
That was some terrible defensive years there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah. Super Bowl champion and Tampa Bay Buccaneers Ring of Honor. Just like I said, when they name when a consistent defensive name or system is kind of named after you, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
All right.
Man.
So
86 years old.
Yeah. Super Sky Point, 84. Super
84.
Sky Point to Monte Kiffin. And sympathies and respects to his family. And
Oh, heck, he's from Nebraska. Well, there you go.
Lexington. Yeah.
Yep.
Is that right?
Died in Oxford.
Yep, Lexington, Nebraska.
So
where's that?
Why does it say Brooklyn Dodgers as a player? Did he apparently played some baseball too in '60s?
He must have. Let's see.
Was it the Dodgers?
Oh no, that was a football team.
Oh, okay.
Continental Football League in 1966, minor league.
I see. Okay. Well, good deal. That I was like, man, how'd the Dodgers play in Brooklyn in '66? Because that would have been Koufax's years, wouldn't it?
Yes.
In LA.
In LA.
Okay, so off to more football. Big 12 Media Days were on Tuesday and Wednesday. And as I told Jeremy going into this, I've got to go back. This has been a busy week for me. I've got to go back and really catch in some of the audio. But I do know that one mulleted coach from Oklahoma State kind of made national blips with his commentary on Ollie Gordon II's DUI arrest in Norman. And here's my take on this, guys, and we'll go to Dan first after this. But the thing about it is Gundy didn't say anything that was untrue. He just should have never said it, because he's exactly right. Everybody has done it 1,000 times. And if you're any sort of person who's been out on the party scene or been places, you've driven buzzed. There's a million people that have done it. You just don't say it if you're the head of a college football program. Dano?
Well, yeah, I think that's where you, in the position that you are, you kind of have to learn to use a certain filter, and, for whatever reason. I mean, anything wrong you say is going to be used against you, so, I mean, if anything, just one word or one phrase, something like that comes out wrong.
But Jeremy, can you ever imagine Bob Stoops, even in his worst press conference or interview, coming across with anything close to that?
First off, Mike Gundy is a genius.
Okay.
Mike Gundy's in a position where never in a million years are they going to fire that man. But he's in a position where he can say something stupid, and now we're not talking about Ollie Gordon anymore. Now we're talking about Mike Gundy.
Well,
so he's taking all the pressure off the kid.
Yeah.
I think I think that's exactly what he did. He's a calculated guy.
Good point.
Yeah, that is an extremely good point, and it kind of relates back to my time as a police officer, because if somebody ever did something stupid and got in trouble, or was, something bad was looming, there's always said, just keep your mouth shut, and
it just goes back to
days and somebody else will do something stupid.
It just goes back to the Bobby Reed situation. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So Jenny Carlson threw this article out there to do Gundy a service of why he's benched, and so Gundy doesn't really have to address it. And then Gundy comes out and just snaps off on her, and now nobody's talking about Bobby Reed.
Yeah,
now they're just talking about Gundy. So I think that's what Gundy wants.
So you're saying Gundy's a supreme wag the dog type of deal?
He is a spin doctor.
Yeah.
And now he is, and now nobody's talking about Ollie Gordon.
Yeah.
They're talking about Mike Gundy. Oh, well, maybe he's done it. Probably done it. Who cares? Who cares? Now they're not talking about him. I mean, he's secure. He's fine. What are they going to do to him?
Yeah. You make an extremely good point, and that's why we pay you the big bucks. I had not thought about it in that process. I hadn't thought about it just a ton, period, but I knew it was a gaffe, and I knew it caught some traction on social media.
Oh, it was 1,000,000,000% calculated.
Okay, man. Jeremy with the big insight. You're right. Now that I look at it that way, he can, for a guy who's at a program that's never had to deal with major league press, like you would at Southern Cal.
Oh, man. Can you imagine if the Prentice Elliott situation would have happened anywhere else but Oklahoma State?
Exactly. And
or Tyreek Hill.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Tyreek, did you see he's there was a story today that said he's been named the father of some woman's child in Florida. That makes 10+ kids for him.
Yeah, he's He's just an upstanding individual.
Baby maker. So, what was it Will Ferrell said in Anchorman when he's playing? That's baby making music right there.
That's right.
No,
I mean, I think he's probably got Barry White playing at all times.
is he in a competition with Nick Cannon? Is my question.
Or what was the cornerback? Antonio Cromartie?
Oh, did he have a lot?
Oh, he had a lot of kids. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of kids.
Well, I tell you what, if Andy Reid can, navigate some of those kids, through their high school years and into college, that's a lot of speed in the receiver core, probably just
I
based
think
on
you're probably thinking of what's that goofy dude that's a coach out of the Dolphins? Because Tyreek Hill plays for the Dolphins now.
Well, I'm just saying Reed would know the lineage and be able to
try to
help you out. I mean, it's not like
that depends on how much trouble they get in. If they get in a lot of trouble, they'll be Chiefs.
Yeah. So, anyways, Big 12 Media Days, there was the Gundy gaffe. There was Dion saying that his wins are judged on a different scale. I don't know. I like I said, I've got to go back and find the clips to really kind of, and that's the plan for the weekend. But where was all the coverage? ESPN had a crew there. What network were they?
I don't know.
Were they breaking?
It's almost like a conference network is an advantage, huh?
You would think. Is that?
I think when it kicks off in Dallas next week, I can flip the TV on, turn over the SEC network, and watch every second of the coverage.
Yeah. And Big Ten Network. I don't know if is that available on YouTube TV?
Was it? It is. What was it? Larry? Who was the commissioner of the Big 12 conference? Larry Scott. Was it Scott?
Larry Scott.
Was it? So he was the commissioner of the Big 12 conference. He floated out to member schools that he wanted to create a conference network.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. I think Chuck knows the story. I don't know that. But anyways, they said no, and then they ended up going a different way as far as commissioners. And he went to the Big Ten, created the Big Ten network. The rest is history. Big Ten's flushing cash. Big 12 suffered under the heel of the Longhorn Network for a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I mean, not everybody has Sirius XM where you can just listen on the radio. I
mean, OU had just a digital streaming package, and then ended up in cahoots with ESPN Plus. But it wasn't just a conference network, which is a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. Well, you can turn on these conference networks any time of day and watch anything. Oh, yeah. I was watching Florida play basketball yesterday because I was that bored.
So, like I said, Tuesday and Wednesday, or is it Monday and Tuesday? Monday and Tuesday are SEC media days. Venables will be on Tuesday the 16th for OU. I think, was it 1 o'clock or I can't remember the time. But, yeah, there will be wall-to-wall coverage on the SEC network. And so your Mark says in his opening statements for the media days is that, they're going to build a conference that will rival or surpass whatever the other big conferences. Well, you might want
to start with a network.
Yeah, get a network so that people.
Well, you see that they're trying to poach Florida State, Clemson from the ACC now.
The gravitational pull is how much network money you make. Unless you're top dog, I don't know how you're going to get schools like that.
I mean, grant of rights is expiring for Florida State? Or they're fighting it, right?
Yeah, they're fighting it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you fight it, you win. The SEC's kind of made it clear they don't want them, right? I mean, they got to find
I think the SEC would take them. I think Florida doesn't want them.
Yeah, kind of the A&M of that that whole
sure.
thing. And I'm sure, Miami's probably wanting to, get in on something. I don't know. I saw a map on Twitter yesterday that showed a division of the Big 12, East and West, that made it.
Oh, yeah. I saw that too.
Yeah.
Well, you're if this happens and the ACC does implode, we're one step closer to just one mega conference and split it by divisions.
I mean, Premier League soccer. I've said it for 5 years, Jeremy.
They need to do it. The old Power Five. I don't know if you had Oregon State and Washington State back in that mix. Maybe the Big 12 will pick them up. Maybe the ACC will pick them up. Don't know.
West, start a new Mountain West. I saw that also. It's like Boise, San Diego State, Utah State, Washington State, Oregon State, basically all the West Coast state schools.
Well, they're going to rebrand it as the Pac.
That's fine. Call it the Pac-10, Pac-8. I don't care. But I mean, those are schools that are kind of on that cusp. And here's the thing. And when you talk about West Coast college football, it's tricky to navigate. Obviously, you have Oregon that's just going to throw mounds and mounds of money at NIL. Washington will try to keep up with that. I don't know their whole, I guess maybe would Bill Gates be a sponsor of a lot of their stuff? I don't know.
Maybe Paul Allen, or who's that goofball? Steve Ballmer.
Yeah, Ballmer. So West Coast, if you look at the West Coast, the last time they had a truly dominant program was when Pete Carroll was there, and he was able to utilize money to keep California kids from going east. Mm-hmm. And he did for several years. And so with that being said, if somebody struck the right chord, and you still have the Big Ten influence with UCLA, USC, and Washington, and who else? Am I missing one? I don't know. It'd be a tough
Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon.
Oregon.
It would be a tough sled, but if somebody got some sort of traction, we're able to convince kids, hey, we're not going to make you go play in Ann Arbor, Michigan in late November. I mean,
no kidding.
Dan, I'm sorry, but I mean, East Lansing, on Thanksgiving weekend, if I'm an LA kid, it's not that appealing.
No, and Riley
I'm totally with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
And Riley hasn't been able to put the fence up around the greater LA area and keep all them kids at home either.
And that was the concept, was that Pete Carroll put up a fence and kept those kids from going, and that's when he was dominant. But he was doing it with NIL before NIL, so that's the thing. But the Big 12, they've got some decisions to make. They've got some moves they need to make. Now, here's the thing: the Clemson and Florida State talk. I from what I picked up, just kind of monitoring it, it wasn't really legitimate. Is that wrong? Was there actually any sort of official report that you saw ever listed as those two teams considering a Big 12 move?
Which ones?
Florida State and Clemson.
Oh, no. I think he just pulled that out of somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was something that TCU fans were running at SMU fans to get their goat. I mean, that's the way I kind of looked at it. But I don't know that there's real talk about it, but apparently, it doesn't have to be real talk. It can be, speculation and things start rolling. You never know. But here's the thing, Dan, is Jeremy got us both fired up, I think, with the MSU helmet video the other day that he shared.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I got to see it.
It's time. I mean, we're under 50 days, I believe, until kickoff of college football. And
half 100.
It really is the best time of the year. I don't care what they say about, the NFL playoffs or college football. Saturdays is just that's the way it works for me in my house.
Yep.
One thing I do notice, and looking at this, and I haven't delved into Big Ten predictions so much yet. I know Ohio State is probably the favorite, and they do get a lot of talent, but the Big 12 preseason rankings are pretty interesting. And the thing about it is Jeremy mentioned that Gundy, took the focus off of Ollie Gordon and his arrest. He wasn't going to suspend him. It's not going to be a situation where that's a Stoops play as well. We'll handle it in-house. But
I was thinking about the whole Mixon thing back when you were talking about that.
Yeah, and that's what anybody who's not an OU fan brings. Well, you kind of an OU fan, but Mixon comes up anytime you mention discipline.
Yeah, I mean, Mixon lost a whole year
until they play Michigan State.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, and Jeremy, I'll go to you on this one. OSU, there's actual pressure on them now, and without having Texas and OU on your schedule, you're kind of the one with the target in conference on your back. And there's some teams that could, there's a lot riding on the Cowboys season with a lot of expectations, and they could falter. They could have one of those seasons like Texas has had in the past, or OU's had here of recent where you just drop games that you look back and say, how did we lose to that team?
I mean, part of me says they're a playoff contender, but then the rational side of me says Gundy will screw around in the out of conference and drop a game he should never have dropped, or two, like last year. And they ended up in the conference championship game, but there is always that possibility. Alex Bowman has not proven to be a durable commodity at quarterback. Yeah, Alan Bowman. I call him Alex. Other than that, I mean, I'm.
In, by the way.
Do what, Dan?
What year
7. He's in his 7th year.
Is he like in his 7th?
Okay. Yeah, he was a starting quarterback at Texas Tech when Kyler Murray won the Heisman.
Yeah. Yes, he was. And so 7th year for him and 7th year for Cam Rising at Utah. Texas Tech has got Taj Brooks coming in. He's going to be a potential rival for the running back of the conference standings for Ollie Gordon. Tech, I don't know. Here's a team that I think people might sleep on and could be a surprise is Kansas.
I was about to say that right now, as long as Daniels can stay healthy.
When have I ever said that?
Right. Not since Glenn Mason or Mark Mangino were there.
No, not since Mangino, took them to an Orange Bowl with one loss,
Yep.
I think, and they won that Orange Bowl. Didn't
they play a bowl game against Phillip Rivers in North Carolina State?
Probably. That would be about
the
well, man, was it 07? That they went to that Orange Bowl?
Yeah, but I think in 06 they played in a bowl game, and it was against NC State.
Okay. So 07 was the season that they lost. The one game they lost was to Missouri, which put Missouri in the Big 12 championship, which Brent Venables shut down Chase Daniels and the Tigers at the Alamo Dome. So how about that?
Yes. Number 1 Missouri, sir. Number 1 Missouri.
Number 1 Missouri, exactly. So looking at the experts picks, and here's the thing: I bought 2 college football preview magazines this season. One was Lindy's, which they're garbage. Billy Bowman isn't even listed on any of the preseason teams.
Yeah, that's silly.
That's just.
What about Gentry Williams?
Didn't see him either. Danny Stutzman, really the only OU player getting any sort of love. So then I bought Phil Steele, and Phil Steele is just a novel. I mean, he packs the stats in there. So I'm kind of going over that. We'll have better coverage in the future, but so it is upon us as I mentioned to Dan when you took a break there for a second. We're under 50 days away from kickoff.
49 days to Oklahoma.
That's right. And so Shedeur Sanders for Colorado picked as the first team quarterback by Lindy's.
In the Big 12.
In the Big 12.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we can get into that. We're running short on time, but we can get into it more so later. But, I mean, he may not have – would you say how am I going to put this? Dan Narva, would you say that Shedeur Sanders would be the first team quarterback based on his NFL potential or on his actual play for Colorado?
Oh, he's predicted as the first team All-American?
Yeah, Lindy's first All Big 12, sorry.
Or All Big 12, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's only got 1 year under his belt, right? So
yeah, I mean, he's projected as a first rounder. I mean, I say he's projected. The thing is, somebody pointed out that all these first rounders that they had last season won 4 games. And so, but first team All Big 12 quarterback, I don't know, because I'm looking at it. Second team, this is according to Lindy's, and let me see if I can find Phil Steele's. Okay, he's got Phil Steele pretty rational. Cam Rising, first team. Shedeur Sanders, second team. Noah Fafita, Arizona, third team. And Rocco Becht of Iowa State is Phil Steele's fourth team. Jalen Daniels is listed third team by Lindy's. Jeremy mentioned it earlier. Kansas with Jalen Daniels could have a monster season. I just don't – I don't see Colorado and Shadur Sanders being able to sneak up on the teams they snuck up on last year.
They only won 4 games last year, Chuck.
That's what I mean. And those 4,
who are they
well,
sneaking
that's the
up
thing.
on?
Did they improve their offensive line? And how's their offensive line?
I mean, they signed 5 high school kids this last year. So are any of them going to be immediate impact players?
Exactly. I don't know. It'll be interesting, and I'm kind of looking forward. This is weird to say, but I'm not going to give up hope on the Big 12, and I'm going to follow OSU and Texas Tech. Kind of out of sentimentality for both, but it looks to shake out to be an interesting season with some unknown variables that Jeremy, you and I have never experienced in our lifetime of watching football here in Big 12 country.
Oh, exactly. Phil Steele has Quinn Ewers as the 4th team All-American quarterback.
Yeah. He's big on Carson Beck, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got Beck as his first team guy.
Yeah. Is he a first team All-American quarterback?
Who? Beck?
Or is it just he's surrounded by?
He's surrounded by all kinds of dudes. Like, I mean, heck, who was a quarterback before him? Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
Couldn't throw it out of his own shadow, but he was throwing to Carl Pickens and guys like that.
Had a gamer.
Yeah.
KJ Jefferson is at UCF now after leaving Arkansas, so that'll be interesting to see what Gus Malzahn works up with the Knights and his new quarterback. And then, we'll get into the SEC media days and kind of wrap them up next week. But going forward, Jeremy, it looks like our Oklahoma Sooners are really being discounted, and I would have to say it's primarily because of offensive line.
It's because of offensive line, and they've been so good in the past that the SEC really did them a lot of favors with that schedule.
Yeah.
One of the factors they took into account when they made the schedules was success over the last 10 years. Well, Texas has had very little success in the last 10 years, which is why they got the somewhat less difficult schedule. And Georgia's even got a tough schedule this year. So, they may not come out of this thing unscathed.
Yeah. Well, and, it would be terrible, Dan, for folks like me and Jeremy, and I don't know your true sentiments on the University of Texas at Austin, but if they went in and really kind of dominated the SEC this upcoming year, that would be the worst of case scenarios.
I'm sorry, Dan, but we've all seen this before. Texas is picked. Oh, they had a great season. They're going to come out. They're going to dominate, and they're going to an unknown. They're going to a big time conference. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to play Oklahoma and Georgia in back-to-back games. They could drop both those games. I won't trust Texas to be anything but what they are until they do it for 3 or 4 years.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that because I did notice a lot of things over the week of people taking exception with Sarkisian's ranking amongst big or SEC coaches. Some second and third, everybody's kind of right behind Smart right now. But the thing about it is Venables getting no respect. And
he's ranked 11th, and Sark is ranked what? Second or
third, depending on.
Yeah, they have the same amount of 10-win seasons, and Venables only been a coach for 2 years.
Yeah,
and was left with a train wreck.
Yeah, so I see what you're talking about. And this goes back to our Corey Hogue days, Jeremy. I think I said Texas was back like 4 seasons in a row.
Yeah, and they weren't. Guess what? They weren't.
But I mean, with the money, the facilities, the offensive pattern, the recruiting, I mean, college football is cyclical. Texas has not had a cycle of really any sustained dominance.
But their cycles of being quote unquote back are very short, except for when the guy the stadium's named after, the old OU quarterback, was down there.
Yeah.
Where they had 3 national titles. They've won 1 national title since 1969? Since they integrated, they've won 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, they integrated 1976? Something like that. Some insane number like that.
I think it was late.
Yeah.
And
They've won
I
one
don't think their
national.
schedule looks that bad.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
No,
they got a very favorable SEC opening
right,
schedule.
and they got that
And
favorable SEC schedule for being a trash program for 10 years.
Yeah. Well,
going to Michigan isn't what it would have been last year.
Yeah. That's and let me ask you this, Dan, does that Longhorn trip to the Big House, that's not as formidable as it was when they had their previous coach, wouldn't you say?
That's true. And quarterback, and I mean, they've lost a
Running back.
bunch of people.
A lot of first round,
But
and
running back.
talent.
Yep.
I'm going to rain on Dan's parade here because I know he really wants Michigan to get beat by Texas, but
I don't
Texas
like either one of them.
Texas is replacing their entire interior D line. Like,
right.
And
no, by the projections in the rankings, though.
Oh, I know, but that's always the case.
Yeah,
that's always the case with Texas. We've seen this for how many years?
Yeah,
and Michigan's going to go after those spots, and they're going to pound the football. Mm-hmm. And it may be a very low scoring game, and Texas probably ain't going to win it.
Yep.
I don't doubt
they're going to be good defensively. Michigan is.
Yeah, I think Michigan is really just a question mark a little bit, but yeah, they haven't lost everybody, obviously. And
as a favorite of the program said, Teddy Lehman, he said, Quinn Ewers is exceptionally mid. And he's got to go into the Big House.
Here's the thing, and all I've seen all week long are EA Sports rankings, which apparently is gospel now. And
sure,
they've got a backup quarterback that's taken, half a dozen snaps in the collegiate game or thrown half a dozen passes. It's got an
all you got to do is hold out and you get that rating, baby.
Telling you, he was smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like his family knows something about dealing with media.
Right.
Dano, we're going to cut you loose, bud, but thanks so much for joining us, man. It was fun to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me. We were really not expected, and I didn't actually think I'd be able to shake free. So
it was great to have you.
Thank you guys,
Dan. Thank you.
Thank you guys for putting up with me. Also, your other fellow listeners as well.
Dude, you're what's kept this thing going in a way.
I get. The proportion between chattiness and real knowledge, I think, is a little high for me. So
no, I think you got a bastion of knowledge. You just got to learn how to convey it.
True.
On a spot deal, but you're what I've posted this meme before, and it's from Seinfeld when Kramer found the old Merv Griffin set and set it in his living room. And this is kind of what our podcast feels like sometimes. Well, you're the you are the antithesis of that. You make it feel like we actually have an audience. So you're one person that amounts to about 10. So anyway,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Next time I'll bring a shandy with me. So
there you go.
Nice.
Take care of yourself,
I'm kidding. I can't stand it.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
How about an IPA? How about that?
You're an hour ahead of us, I think, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So there you go.
Getting toward noon here. So
that's a day drinker. So anyway, take care of yourself, Dan.
Thanks again, guys.
See you,
Appreciate
Dan.
it.
Bye-bye.
You bet. Take care.
All right. So Jeremy, hold on a second. So really, it's fun to visit with Dan and get to chit chat with him. But real quick on the whole SEC Media Day deal, like we said, it will be all over, ESPN's SEC network. There will be content from the other, platforms that cover college football. It's just that's the way of the world. And if you're not on that train, you're just going to be left behind.
And the ACC has a network. The Pac-12 had a network, which I don't understand. The Big 12 is just kind of a outlier, whereas they don't have a conference network, and somehow they're succeeding.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
Picture.
The what?
I just saw the tweet where you sent the Mickey Hatcher picture.
Oh,
that's quite the glove. And so it'll be fun to see. I mean, there was so much fanfare around the Paul Feinbaum visit to Norman, and a lot of OU folks showed up. A lot of great interviews, and really kind of made an impression for the SEC, I think. And then Teddy Lehman kind of took he's got some of them kind of twisted off about some things with regards to his rankings, I guess, of the SEC. I mean, here's the thing. OU is in a rebuild. They're trying to get back to trying to improve from what they were under Lincoln Riley. And if you remember, as much as I don't like Lincoln Riley and how he did things and the way he lack of emphasis on defense, people wanted Josh Heupel gone with extreme prejudice.
Yes.
And when he came in from East Carolina, Lincoln Riley, people were excited. And that first season, utilizing Baker Mayfield, which maybe it would have just been all Baker Mayfield. Maybe Baker Mayfield would have excelled in Josh Heupel's system. I don't know. It was building recruiting had kind of taken a kickback to being good again. You hit on quarterback in the Big 12, you can win games.
Yep.
So looking at Lincoln Riley and his time in Oklahoma, it was a quick rebuild for him when he got handed over the reins.
There was no rebuild. He was handed the keys to a Ferrari.
Well, they made a playoff under Bob Stoops, but remember that 2016 season where they drop a game to Houston and they drop a game to Ohio State, which they were not in. He takes over the next season, and maybe it'd have been the same if Bob would have stayed, but obviously he was able to navigate that next season with a lot of great seniors to the college football playoff, and really the one playoff game that they should have won. I mean, they had it won. And so looking at it, Jeremy, that was maybe it was just a reload, maybe just a small rebuild, however you want to phrase it.
I just think with Bob his last couple of years, I think that the recruiting fire wasn't gone, but maybe a little bit of the decision making had fallen off.
You think?
Maybe just a little bit.
Punt it to Tyreek Hill twice,
Yeah, well, he was he had his hip replaced right after that game, so yeah, I can only imagine how much pain he was in.
Think he was chasing the dragon in that game?
Yeah, maybe just a bit.
So, well, I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, I watched Nick Saban last night accept an award, an Icon Award, and obviously you got to get talent on campus, but then you also have to have talent that develops you, and you have to have talent that competes. And it just seemed like, after the 2000 season, Bob Stoops' teams there were some great teams, but they just didn't get it done. After multiple attempts. The thing I'm getting at is college football is cyclical. Florida State has a big tradition, and we talk about blue bloods all the time. And there's some teams that are kind of being left out of the whole blue blood conversation that have some real recent success. I mean, people are talking about, I see these charts and Clemson's not listed as a blue blood. They've won 2 natties in the college football playoff era. I don't care, I don't care what you won in 1955, and I'm not hacking on OU, but I'm just saying, the whole blue blood narrative and dynamic has probably shifted. And if OU doesn't kind of right the ship a little bit, then they could falter pretty heavily.
They're going to be fine. They've got a talented group there now. Venables is really building something. Blue blood. Yeah, okay. That's just a way to say a traditionally successful program. There's a phrase, and I know you've heard it because we've all heard it for the last 30 years. Clemsoning.
Okay.
Because they're, every year, Clemson, great expectations fall flat on their face. And it's just very recent under a certain head coach, Dabo, where they've become really good. And new money.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with new money. They're like a Silicon Valley startup or Microsoft or something like that. They're not IBM. They're Microsoft, whatever.
But we're talking about a society and a generation of athletes that are coming up that new, bright, and shiny. That
Sure.
Go ask anybody who comes to OU for an official visit if they know who Steve Owens or Billy Sims were.
Okay, but do they know who Archie Griffin is? Do they know who? Crap, I can't even think of a. Who was a?
They know
Oh,
Deshaun
Alabama
Watson. They know
never.
Trevor
Alabama
Lawrence.
never had a Heisman winner until Mark Ingram.
No. So I mean, but
I get what you're saying, but I mean, both things can be true at the same time. Oklahoma and Ohio State, and these perceived blue bloods. I won't. I don't know about Notre Dame. Notre Dame's just kind of weird to me. I don't. They don't pay anybody, and it's just like they're usually pretty mid to decent and get their doors blown off anytime they play a real program. But they keep it new and shiny.
Yeah.
You got the Unity uniforms. Those things are sweet, man.
I want to see the
facilities. Side. I want to say when not Dari Noka, but was it Kevin Nagande with the SEC network? Kevin Nagande. Yeah, he's an anchor on SEC network. When I saw him at the airport, he was just gushing about Oklahoma's facilities. And they're not even the new ones that we're getting ready to see.
Okay.
So you could be new and shiny and traditionally good.
Nagandi was in town, I thought.
Yeah, Nagandi was in town with Feinbaum.
Okay. I guess I missed that. I know Dari Noka is a big OU fan.
Right. Well, I mean, he's from the area.
Yeah. Man, it was sad seeing John Anderson sign off on ESPN. Since you bring Oklahoma guys with Oklahoma ties.
Yep. Tulsa's own
Center are gone.
Sports Center outside of SVP, which has just become his opinion.
I love SVP and I love Stanford Steve. Bad Beats is one of the best segments in TV history, but it's kind of become a glad handing segment.
Yeah, media has become so lazy.
It has.
It's all opinion.
Anyways, well, and so I don't know. We had some other things to talk about, but we kind of really probably gave the ESPYs too much time. But I can't, and just for the final company standpoint, I came away just feeling a little bit older and out of touch after watching.
Yeah, that's why I just don't watch those things.
Yeah, I mean, but I did want to see the Steve Gleason deal, and I tell you something. In all seriousness, after having lunch yesterday with a good friend of mine who's been stricken with ALS, the first acquaintance or friendship of mine where I've come to know somebody with a terminal illness, debilitating illness, and I don't want to cuss on this deal, but ALS is just an MFer. And Steve Gleason, I followed followed a lot of his stuff on social media over the years, ever since his diagnosis. And Dan Narva, welcome to the club, old man. Thanks. He's aging backwards though, so he doesn't really.
Yes, he's Benjamin Button.
But man, I'm telling you, Jeremy, to see somebody dealing with ALS and to see the nightmare that it is. I was a basket case after seeing Gleason last night up there accepting his award and the video they did for him, and then on the heels of having lunch yesterday with a good friend of mine who's got ALS. I mean, I know I don't mean to quote Chris Rock on this deal, but the money's not in the cure for anything in this world. It's all in the medicine, and if they can't come up with something to do something. And I look back and this friend of mine, this is the type of person he is, and I admire this because I'm never this ballsy, so to speak. But when the ice bucket challenge was going on and people were feeling themselves with ice dumped all over them, he sat down in a chair and he goes, "I'm not dumping ice on me. I'm going to cut this check to give to the ALS Foundation, and let's spare me the grandstanding of an ice bucket challenge. Let's donate money." And it's kind of a bad irony that he got afflicted with it after taking that kind of stance, but he was right. I say give the money because God, I pray that they're researching it and trying to find something really, that will deter it or prevent it, whatever the case is, make it manageable. But I mean, it's a nightmare. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I came away really moved by the whole Steve Gleason thing, and that really kind of made the whole broadcast worthwhile. And so if you know somebody with ALS or something like that, you know, find the organizations that assist the families and, you know, to help them, because the sad part is, you know, Gleason's sitting there in a chair and he's able to communicate with a keyboard that he moves with his eyes. And then they say that his eyes are giving out, and
Oh my God.
he'll be lacking all communication soon. I was like,
It's just, yeah.
what in the hell, man? I mean,
I know.
I don't know. It that moved me last night, and it was probably just based on the heels of fellowshipping with a friend that's got it as well. But man, it's going to make me renew my perspective on a lot of things, and you know, things like that. But so anyways, but you know, prayers for them, prayers for anybody out there dealing with MLS. And I texted my friend and I said, hey, I Seinfeld's one of my favorite shows of all time. I hope that they weren't too irreverent when dealing with ALS. And he I don't think he had a problem with it. But do you remember when the guy that played Steinbrenner, when
Yes.
when
Larry David.
Yeah, well, Larry David was the voice.
Yeah,
It's the guy who was the back figure. But you know, I think what was it? George had gotten strawberries all over Babe Ruth's jersey. And then Steinbrenner goes, "Look at this, Lou Gehrig's pants," and he says, "You don't think that nerve disease is contagious, do you? We can't be without Big Stein." And I just thought, you know, if something can bring a little humor to, which is what I tried to do with my friend yesterday, was try to bring some humor to him. So, but anyways, that's my rant on that. But so we'll prepare for some coverage next week of SEC Media Days, and hey, in all clarification, I'm totally on board with what Venables is doing. I think you're exactly right. He's got the ship headed in the right direction. It's a shame that their schedule is shaped up the way it is, because they could take a beating this year, which would subsequently mean he takes a beating in the media.
But you know, a lot of those teams are rebuilding as well, so I think we just need to
That's true.
Back and enjoy it.
I mean, and therein lies the thing, and I take, you know, because people are really giving Brian Kelly down in Baton Rouge a lot of you know, credit and props for what they're doing down there. They lost a bunch of talent, you know.
Yeah.
And there's
lost a Heisman winner,
a first round receiver. I mean, so a lot of things in play. Alabama's not quite the Alabama that they were. And, you know, we'll see if Texas had, you know, studs in waiting behind a lot of their. I know they've got a projected first rounder on the offensive line, and then linebacker, but they've got, you know, typical Texas. They've got to make sure they got some secondary guys that can tackle and cover, you know.
Maybe.
I mean,
we'll
really,
see.
if you look at Twitter in any 72-hour period of time, there will be a Texas Tech page that posts the video of Michael Crabtree, you know, being feather tackled, you know, before he scored, and then
the flea flicker from Jalen Hurts to CeeDee Lamb, where he's got 6 defenders around him, and
he evaded 9 defensive players. Who the thing about that one was, Jeremy, is it was visible they had no intention of wanting to tackle him. So
no, they didn't want it.
Anyway, hey, let's get out of here. What do you got going for the weekend?
Get ready to go have dinner with or lunch with some family, and then
family.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I want to say you cracked my wife up. Have we been on the air since we talked about the Feinbaum show?
I don't think so.
Okay, so after the Feinbaum show, and I said, I guess I'm gonna have to practice my my lead-in call. Paul. And then when I read my wife the text you sent me, it said, "Charlie from Thomas, you're on the air." She just about lost it. Because I mean, he's got some dynamic calls. I'll say that. So
he does.
Anyway, well, listen, have a great weekend. Enjoy your lunch with the family, and man, we'll be back here next Friday to do this again. I'm going to let's see. I think Wednesday I'll be interviewing Aiden Kelly, friend of the program, who's a defensive lineman at Oklahoma State. I had tried to see if he could come on this Friday, but he was unavailable due to morning workouts. But I got to say, I'm a little disappointed by the big leaguing I got from one of our OU favorites.
Yeah, I guess he's going 0 dark 30
I
on
saw
all
that.
social media and
Hope
podcasting.
everything's
So
okay. So
I think it's just prepping for the season.
maybe that's some intensity I think that player brings. So that's good. But
Yeah,
it would have been 15 minutes just talking about how you're
I
getting
know.
the SEC.
Would have made two old men very happy.
It really would. And so, anyways, but if you want to be happy, be sure and follow us on all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter X at Law Dog Sports. He's Jeremy Schroeder. I'm Chuck Ramsey. You can follow us also. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel where all of these episodes are preserved. And then also SoundCloud, Amazon Podcast, Spotify, and Apple iPod Podcasts. I guess it's just Apple Podcasts. We are available, the Law Dog Sports Podcast. So be sure and check us out there. And I will have some content also upcoming for the Western Oklahoma Sports Night sidekick to the Weekend Big Show, all powered by Law Dog Sports. He's Jeremy Schroeder. I'm Chuck Ramsey. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Don't text and drive, and sure don't drink and drive. And we'll talk to you real soon.